Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. So welcome friends to this Wednesday evening Dhamma discussion, and I hope that you are able to re-listen to the Dhamma talk, the link to the Dhamma talk that I sent out on Sunday for this topic. Now, last week we went over the 12 links of dependent origination and discussing the aspect of lifetime to lifetime rebirth, or what I sometimes call external rebirth. And that's usually the sort of popular or common explanation of the 12 links of the dependent origination and how they connect the past life, the karma generated in the past life, to the present life, and how the karma generated in the present life will continue to the future life. So again, I'm just going to give a basic kind of review. So that's generally all these 12 links, beginning with ignorance. Depending on ignorance arise volitional formations, and then arising consciousness, the mind and body, the six senses, contact, feeling, craving, grasping, becoming, birth, and suffering. So this week we want to investigate or try to understand how these same 12 links of dependent origination are actually occurring every moment of our life. For the moment you are born, especially the moment you come out of the womb and you start having contact with the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the body, then that process swings into full gear. And because of the contact, we have feelings that arise due to, hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking things. And then we develop that craving for them, and then we generate karma based on our desire to have them or get away from them. And the actual creation of karma is the bhava, which is translated as becoming. Sometimes it's translated as being, but for our explanation, I prefer to use the term becoming, because it means the mind becoming stronger depending on what you are concentrating on. So it develops stronger sensual desires, or it develops stronger concentration to attain jhanas, or even the formless jhanas. So that means the mind becoming in those three sort of realms. That's a little bit difficult to understand, but hopefully it might become more clear as we go on. So anyway, in the now the lifetime to lifetime process is probably the easiest one to sort of theoretically understand. Of course, if people are open to the idea of rebirth, but of course, if people are very close-minded to that and they don't want to hear anything about it, of course, then they won't even begin to understand that, the intellectual aspect. So this internal process of rebirth, moment to moment, requires really meditation. And that's why only people that meditate, and especially practicing the vipassana meditation, which focuses particularly on impermanence, without practicing that and seeing how quickly the mind comes and goes, all these contacts, feelings, perceptions come and go at a very rapid speed. And only when you meditate and are able to have some detachment and observe that process more clearly, then only then you start to understand, that's the way it is. And that's due to the concentration. So the ability to perceive impermanence requires a concentrated mind. And so that's why many people won't be able to understand this deep level of moment-to-moment rebirth. But it's really the deepest understanding, the dependent origination, really the deepest part of it is understanding this moment-to-moment process, because it's the moment-to-moment process that actually goes on millions and billions of times during our lifetime. And it's the accumulation of all that actually generates the power for the consciousness to, at the time of death, to relink to another life. So it's really the moment-to-moment rebirth process, or process of impermanence, but it's also a rebirth. Now, hopefully that'll become clear as I try to explain it. It's it's a very difficult concept. But anyway, the Buddha's chief disciple Ananda, who memorized all the suttas and listened to all the Buddha's teachings, he told the Buddha one day, "Oh, this paticca samuppada, it's perfectly clear," and everything. And the Buddha knew that Ananda was not an arahant yet, so he knew that the Buddha, Ananda, was only understanding this lifetime to lifetime process, because his concentration and insights was not deep enough to understand to the deepest level about the moment-to-moment process. So he said, "No, Ananda, don't say that. Don't say that this paticca samuppada is clear and looks simple and clear and you understand it." Because he knew only arahants can perfectly understand it, or at least people who have reached the stage of a sotapanna or even the higher stages. So anyway, so basically, again, when a baby's born, basically, of course, during the womb, for 9 months in the womb, it has a kind of a consciousness, but its contacts and sensations are very limited only to the sort of the physical sensations they're experiencing. But because its mind is in a very womb-like state, then its thoughts are probably not too much. But anyway, when it's born, so anyway, we've brought the ignorance, and so when a baby's born, it already has the ignorance, the volitional formations, the consciousness, the mind and body, and the six senses, and then contact starts. So already these are a given. When we are born, we have already ignorance, volitional formations, because that's what caused us to be born in the first place, was the previous volitional formations. So whenever the baby's born, it's already got all these 5 conditions. They're sort of inbuilt. We don't have to do anything about it, right? So we already got the ignorance, volitional formations, consciousness, and then now that we're born, through the process of 9 months in the womb, the mind and body developed, and the 6 senses developed. In the womb, the baby has some contact, but it's very limited. Now the baby comes out and the doctor whacks it on the rump, right? Contact. And then it starts hearing sounds and seeing bright lights and so on. So now, with the birth, you get the contact, feeling, craving, grasping, and becoming, and then birth again. So these are what we want to focus on in this moment-to-moment birth, rebirth, moment-to-moment. And this is what we can observe, we can actually observe in our mind when we're practicing, especially practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness and vipassana type of, awareness. And developing like the 7 factors of enlightenment, the insight knowledges, as we've discussed several times already. So with each moment of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking, these contacts are arising and vanishing, faster than a supercomputer is processing information. But that is the moment to moment. And with each moment of contact, there's a feeling. Let's just take one example. So the hearing, you hear a sound, and that produces a pleasant sensation, feeling, painful feeling, or neutral feeling. And then we develop desire or aversion, that means craving, for the feeling. And then if the feeling is strong enough, we develop a stronger craving. We grasp at it. We want to try to hold that feeling. And then we go on thinking about it. And our desires or our anger or hatred about the particular object, they, get generated. So that's the grasping. So the initial desire that arises, or craving that arises on contact, is just the initial attraction or aversion, or the initial thought about, I'd like to have or do this. But then if you have good mindfulness, you realize, that's not going to happen now, and you kind of just forget about it. So it's not that strong. But if you start grasping it, you say, yes, I have to have that object. My life depends on that, or something like that. Or I have to get away from this thing. That's grasping. Now you're grasping the object and you're thinking about it. So grasping lasts a lot longer than the craving. The craving is just the initial impulse for liking or disliking a particular feeling. But it's grasping at it, and that includes thinking and planning and scheming and all the much more mental activity until you build up to a point where you have to make a decision. So grasping is one of the very largest of these groups of the Paticca Samuppada, because you could spend a lot of time, thinking, should I do it? Should I not do it? Weighing the pros and cons. And then finally you come up, yes, I'm going to do it. And then you do it. This is like you're debating whether to tell a lie. And then finally you decided, okay, I'm going to tell the lie. Now, once you tell the lie, you can't take it back. And that's the becoming. So you've done an intentional action. So that's the karma. Karma is the intentional action. And that's the becoming, that step of becoming. Grasping gives rise to a becoming. And so becoming is the actual creation of the karma. And that's what's probably the most important part of our life. Where the grasping leads to strengthening, the becoming means becoming stronger. So that habit to tell a lie becomes stronger. The habit to use bad language becomes stronger. Any habit or action that you repeat over and over, it becomes stronger or becomes weaker. Now, if you have wisdom, if you have a good mindfulness and wisdom, and you restrain yourself, let's say from breaking the precepts or some other types of thoughts, then you weaken the habit, by restraint, by causing yourself to, but that requires mindfulness and wisdom and developing patience and things like that in order to not strengthen the becoming, especially for the unwholesome actions that are going to, rebound back to us and cause suffering, like guilt, worry, remorse, and fear. And so again, to be clear, the becoming is actually the creation of the karma, the actions that you take based on that process of craving and grasping. And then, depending on becoming, arises birth. Well, you might say, well, I'm only born in one lifetime. How can I be born moment to moment? This is the key. So that step of birth, depending on becoming, arises birth. That means because that habit has become stronger, and it also strengthens the ego, because every time you get the object of desire, unconsciously you're saying, I won, I got it, or I defeated the other person, or I got away from that unpleasant thing. So all of your deliberate actions involve the sense of I, that I'm, because basically we're the one that's doing them, or we think we are. So it strengthens the ego. That's the birth. That's the birth. That means the sense of I is going to be born again in the next moment. Of course, this is happening in millions of times, even in a second, probably that fast. So we don't really see it happening that fast, but in deep meditation, you can get a kind of a sense of that. So the birth means in the moment to moment or internal process of birth and death, that birth is the rebirth of the sense of I, because as we've already studied at other times, the sense of I is not some permanent entity that's there in your brain or anywhere else, an unchanging entity. It's a process of, millions of times in a second, the consciousness arising and vanishing, the sense of self that vanishes carries with it the momentum to arise in the next moment, but it's said not to be the same self because you've changed. Every moment that you've done something changes you in one way or another. It changes some aspect of your memory and your mental continuum. So in that way, you're not the same person that you were before, because many people have changed their life in the matter of one day in some kind of experience. So, every morning we get up and we're not the same person, but even every second that we do something, it changes us. Our karmic accumulation changes us in one way or another. We either accumulate more desire or we weaken desires. So this is, probably a hard thing to, intellectually understand, but when you understand the mind, then it will, make more sense, hopefully. So it's that process of the birth. It means the birth of the sense of I, and also the habits that are born again. That means because they've gotten stronger, it's like they're born again. They will rise. They will arise again. So that's one of the meanings of the becoming gives rise to birth. And then once you're born, then it dies again, because again, we're talking about the moment to moment arising and vanishing of the states of consciousness. So the consciousness is born, but it ceases immediately, because again, it's going like that, so fast. And the example I like to give is the example of electrocardiogram or electroencephalogram. That means an EKG, or I can't remember all these initials, but let's say the brain waves especially. If you look at when somebody's hooked up to all these things, and they look, there's a graph, there's a needle is going, a million miles a second, depending on the kinds of stimulations the brain is receiving. So that's the arising and vanishing. Actually, that's a good, for people who have trouble understanding, just a talk about it. When you see that, because every nuance or even a sound by talking, same thing. Every minute change in the tone of the voice is a separate thing that, goes up and down like that. And so that's a very graphic kind of representation or illustration of this process of arising and vanishing. And it is because it's, it's connected into the nervous system, these, EKGs and all these other things, they're all connected to the nervous system. It records the slightest little change in sound or anything else it notices. And that's this process of paticca samuppada, arising and vanishing. And then, once you're born, then all these things are subject to sickness, disease, and death. Of course, that's referring mostly to the body, but even other things in our life, in a kind of a, I don't know the proper word to say, but, even the sound undergoes sickness, disease, and death. But primarily it refers to this body, but also to the moments of consciousness too. And then, so the birth and then the disease and death, those are all happening moment to moment, but over the larger lifetime is where we're able to see these things. But it's this aspect of understanding the mind which is important to understand, to really understand the Buddhist teachings and all the things that the Buddha taught about how to slow down this momentum of craving, grasping, and becoming, which leads to the strengthening of the ego and birth and death. But especially those three steps of craving, grasping, and becoming, these are really what we can kind of control in our life. We can't control rather too much disease and death and so on, or even our birth for the most part. But and we can't even control contact and feeling, because as long as you're in places, you're going to have contact and feeling, and they don't ask to come, they just come on their own. But craving, grasping, and becoming, these are the things that revolve around the Buddhist teaching about the ending of suffering. So the Noble Eightfold Path, Four Noble Truths, and the Noble Eightfold Path, it's all about slowing down that accumulation, especially of negative karma, greed, hatred, and delusion, and then the sufferings that come because of this accumulated karma. So it's only when you develop that kind of mindfulness, and that's why in our meditation we become mindful of the body, right? So on this body, there's these 6 sense organs. And they're being contacted, all the time, basically, especially when you're sitting, there's not a moment when there isn't any body sensations, really. And of course, it's not producing prominent feelings all the time, but the painful and pleasant sensations that come with those body sensations, they're frequent enough that we can see them, and we can then try to observe them. But we can't prevent the feelings from arise. They're going to arise because feelings are the result of past karma. But you can kind of change the way you react to feelings. And what used to produce a pleasant feeling could in the future generate an unpleasant feeling in you. Let's say, I use the example of relationships, and please don't take me wrong, or I'm not trying to,
How are you? What's the
on
matter?
anybody's toes. But you might like or love a person for a while, but if they change and that person might have produced pleasurable feelings in you, later on they might produce painful feelings in you. Or even with certain foods, my famous avocado story, right? So, even the feelings are subject to change, that what used to be a pleasurable feeling could turn into a painful feeling later on, and what used to give you a painful feeling could become a pleasant feeling even later on. But I'm just saying that this is how we observe these feelings, but we can't really change them. When they arise, they're the result of past karma. Now, the craving is also a result of past karma, but we have the ability to check the craving. Actually, I should even go a step further, is we can't control the craving, but we can control the grasping. Because craving is going to arise, the initial thought or desire is going to arise until you've reached at least one of the levels, whether either you're in jhana, and people can't stay in jhana all the time, but when you're in jhanas, the feelings might cease for a while. And then when people attain these levels of entering the stream, once returning, never returning, in the Arahant level, feelings can be gradually reduced and adapted. Or even the cravings. So certain cravings, even a Sotapanna hasn't reduced cravings. It only starts when you attain the once returning level, and then not all of them. So anyway, it takes some understanding to understand that. So really what we can work on in terms of the practice of Dhamma is weakening the craving. You're not going to eliminate it, you're going to weaken it, and you're going to eliminate the kind of cravings that bring you more suffering. That's the main thing. But But basically, craving, don't worry too much about craving. Because again, it's going to arise as the result of the past karma. And you can only change your karma in the present moment. But the important part is the transition from craving to grasping. And from grasping to becoming. These are the three real keys or the places where you can fundamentally practice Dhamma and where you can change your karma. Is that the craving, grasping, and becoming. So, a lot of people hear about the Buddha's teaching and they say, oh, you have to give up desire, you have to give up craving. And people say, oh my God, how can we give up all craving? It's just, and they say, I can't practice Buddhism. So don't worry about craving. Worry about grasping. Because becoming, your karma comes from grasping, not craving. So we consciously, that's why Sila, Samadhi, and actually Sila, Samadhi, and Panya address these three levels of craving, grasping, and becoming. When we practice Sila, we slow down becoming because we're checking ourselves. So that desire to reach up and smack a mosquito or a fly, or checking yourself, no, I won't tell that lie, or I won't use that bad speech. So, because you've taken these precepts, right? You repeat them every day, hopefully, or remind yourself. But the desire to do it may still be in your mind, but at least the precept prevents you from actually doing the karma, like telling the lie. Have the desire to tell a lie is one thing, but if you don't tell it, then probably no one's going to find out about it. But once you tell it, then it goes out into the environment and comes back as a boomerang to affect you in the same way with the other, like breaking other precepts and so on. So the Sila, that's why it's very important. It works on becoming, reducing especially the negative becomings. And then with the practice of right effort, that increases the positive becomings because you're deliberately developing wholesome states that you haven't had previously, like the desire to meditate. That's a good karma. It is karma, but it's a good karma because it's leading the mind to eventually coming to the end of karma altogether, once you've, developed. So the Sila helps to slow down and purify the becoming. But as I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily change your mind. So some people can force themselves to practice Sila, but they would still like to do some of those things, but they kind of, in the beginning, you kind of force yourself not to do these things. Later, of course, it becomes more natural and normal. But the thoughts about them, that's why the Samadhi, concentration, works on quieting your thoughts. So when you practice meditation enough, whether you're trying to attain jhanas, when you attain the first, second, third jhanas and so on, the momentum of your thoughts slows down. You're no longer scheming and thinking about things. And so that's where the grasping arises, during the thinking process. So the concentration helps to slow down the grasping, or to help to overcome the grasping. And so that's the Samadhi. So we're talking about Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, directly affecting those categories of becoming, grasping, and craving. So concentration weakens or slows down the grasping, but it's the Panya, the wisdom, that overcomes the craving. And it's the wisdom of the 4 stages of enlightenment. Because it's only with those, actually the second and third and fourth stages of enlightenment is where craving is actually overcome. And that's a whole, talk in itself when we were talking about the 10 fetters and so on. You can go back and listen to the pre-recorded talks on that. So it's the panya, the wisdom, but the wisdom of attaining the magga phala, of the paths and the fruits, especially that is where the craving is eliminated in a more permanent way. So that is how these 3 parts of the practice, it shows very clearly that the whole of the Eightfold Path is divided into Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, and they're directly focused at these 3 stages of craving, grasping, and becoming. But we say becoming first, grasping, and then craving, because it's the becoming is the end product of the craving and grasping. But we can't just immediately go to eliminate craving. We have to start with slowing down becoming, and then purifying becoming, and then purifying grasping. So we'll have the concentration and the mindfulness to actually develop the insight knowledges, strengthen the factors of enlightenment, and attain those stages that we've talked quite a bit about. So that's what I wanted to point out, that about that moment-to-moment process, how that's important. If you don't understand that process, then you're not going to understand the Buddhist teaching, really. On a really deep level. And some people have asked, do we have to believe in rebirth to be a Buddhist? And I tell them, well, believing in external rebirth, maybe not. You don't have to necessarily believe in that, but you have to understand the internal rebirth, because if you're not going to attain these stages of liberation, then you can call yourself a Buddhist even, for lifetimes without attaining any stage, but the Buddha wouldn't call you that really, probably, because the Buddha always emphasized in people, attaining those stages of enlightenment to understand the teachings. So, because it's actually, the Buddha has mentioned this in suttas, it's only when somebody has entered the stream that they actually are standing on the Eightfold. They've entered the supramundane Noble Eightfold Path, as opposed to just following the mundane Eightfold Path, which is basically the intellectual understanding of the Dhamma, not the deep wisdom understanding of the Dhamma. So that's what I wanted to review, because it's important, and to understand the vital connection between Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, and these stages of becoming, grasping, and craving. And that's the essence of the teaching. And anywhere you look in the Buddhist teaching, you will find it. Okay, friends. So now, if any of you have no one had written in any questions on email. So let's see if there's a. This mouse is not working. Can you fix that mouse? This first question, can you give few concrete practical examples on how to guard the senses? Please use both pleasant and unpleasant experiences. Well, guarding the senses takes mindfulness. And we have to be aware of the body. The senses are on the body, right? Your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. Those are where most of the world is coming through. So if you're not connected to the body, you'll have more difficulty. Get rid of that stuff. Excuse me. I don't know. So anyway, on guarding the senses, mindfulness is the way we guard the senses, and also clear comprehension. And there's no just one clever little idea of example of how you guard the senses. If you're not mindful, you won't be able to guard the senses. But in the removing of the overcoming the defilements, the Buddha gave the 7 ways of overcoming defilements, and one of them is avoiding things. So by guarding the senses one way is you can avoid going to places that stimulate your senses, and you have difficulty in managing or controlling that. So you avoid places that might trigger off, those senses and the feelings that arise because of that. And just but really mindfulness and, being centered in the body and mindfulness is both for the unpleasant and the pleasant examples of experiences, because they arise because of feeling, and feelings arise in the body, in the mind. So without mindfulness, you're not going to be able to guard the senses. It's pure and simple. I'm sorry. There's no other way. You can ask somebody else. They may give you nice little ideas, and some of those might work, but ultimately, without developing mindfulness and being centered and right understanding, it's the right understanding too. You guard the senses by having right understanding, right effort, and right mindfulness. These are the 3 pillars of the Eightfold Path that we mentioned before, that we have to have. And they have to be applied at each moment of sensory experience. So.
Can I say something, Bhante? This is Andrew.
Okay. Yes.
The reason I asked this question, because I was listening about this chain from feeling go to craving and then grasping in what you explained. And my own experience is that basically what prevents me to stay on the feeling is a loss of mindfulness, but it's because of the stream of habitual behavior. And that's why I asked this question. I know I need to stay and look at the feeling just as the feeling, right? But if I've done something 10,000 times, feeling arises and it hijacks the mindfulness. And that's why I asked, is there any practical recommendation how to stay with it at the feeling?
No. I'm sorry. If you find one, let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
No, the craving. So the craving produces the feeling. And so check it at grasping and becoming. So those are the way we guard the senses. You have to apply. If your mindfulness isn't strong enough to overcome the craving, then it turns into grasping. And then you have to apply the right effort at that time. That's why all the aspects about right effort are oriented toward stopping the becoming and the grasping. And if the grasping leads to that last point of the becoming, you decide, okay, I'm going to do that, you still have a chance to say, wait, at the very last moment, to stop. So in that way, that's a gross way of guarding the senses, but we shouldn't let it wait that long. But you have those different chances. So you're right. We can't, it's not that easy to let go of the feelings. And even craving, as I said, even sotapannas can't even stop their craving in that ultimate deep way, if you follow the logic of the 10 fetters. So, but the grasping and the becoming, that's why I said those two things. And that's why sila is important. Sila will help you guard the senses too, by not going or indulging in kinds of things that stimulate them.
I thought just it's an important point. Like right now, for example, I have a habit of delivering my idea, right? Even if we talked about it. When I notice it, that's what I'm talking about. If you notice it, basically it's like a sensation, but I've done it a million times. If I see it, well, you just sit with it and then that's the end of it. But usually I don't, because I forget. There's no mindfulness, and I do whatever I've done a million times. It's just no. Let's talk about it. You know, that's why I pointed it out. I think this each of us should find some trick to be mindful when this habit starts and just watch it.
Yeah, it's a very difficult process, and basically every person is going to have to come up with their own little tricks or gimmicks that might help work for them, because not everything will work for everybody in the same way. When the Buddha talks about right effort, well, there's many different ways you could apply right effort to abandon an unwholesome idea or inclination, and so on. So, each person, the Buddha's teachings are kind of guidelines, but each person is going to have to come up with their own unique kind of ways that helps them, because what might help me might not help you, and so on. But the Buddha's teachings are guidelines to get us on the right track. But each person is, because of their own karma, have to develop, certain modifications, perhaps.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to this next question. I always try to transform karma or feeling in the space between feeling and craving. Next, I apply the 12 links of dependent arising. I believe it works very well for me. What do you think about it? Well, if it works well for you, then what am I to think about it? I mean, I was just mentioning that, previously. So if that's the way that helps you, by applying in between the space of the feeling and craving, but really there's no space between feeling and craving. Feeling arises, craving arises immediately. I would say it's between the craving and grasping that's going to really, it works for me. So for you, it's between feeling and craving. For me, it's between, craving and grasping and becoming. So those are those three critical areas in which people have to then apply their ability, according to their ability, to prevent the habits from accumulating. Okay, Michael, does that answer your question?
Yes, Bhante, it does. I just applied mindfulness to my feelings, to the sensations, and then when I sense something is going into a track of unwholesomeness, I arrest it immediately, and therefore I try not to let craving arise. But your lecture, your talk today, and your video recording that I watched were excellent. So thank you.
Okay. Okay, this next question. How are we to handle it when during meditation we think of items that we would like to write down to remember for later? How do you handle this? Is it generally better to prioritize letting go and staying with the meditation? That depends. I also, when you meditate, you can get great ideas. And if you don't write them down, you might forget them. So I've done that a lot of times. Especially if they're insights, if they're insights and you want to remember it later. So, you could keep a little pad of paper and a pencil, down. And if it comes to a point when you think you should write it down, okay. I mean, I've done that before a lot, especially in my younger years when insights were coming, all the time. And sometimes, it's like an insight is the mind opens like a camera lens and shuts real quick. And it's just like, you forgot it. It's sort of like a dream, right? You have a dream, you wake up from a dream, you try, and then it kind of trails off and you can't remember the dream. Sometimes insights are like that too. But sometimes, of course, they're very powerful, and of course they don't just fade away like that. But I would say that you could try that, and then go back to your meditation. But I wouldn't make a habit of it, And especially if you're already in a deep state of concentration, I wouldn't do it. But if you're still in a kind of a stage, just a mediocre stage where you haven't even reached a stage of excess concentration or something like that, then it probably wouldn't hurt to do that and come back. In your talk, you said the ego is the deepest level of ignorance. What conditions ignorance? The 5 hindrances condition ignorance. Actually, so one Dharma person had brought this up to me, although I already knew it. But there's a sutta where the Buddha was asked that, and it's the 5 hindrances. Keep ignorance strong. So if you really want to ask the question, what conditions ignorance, it's the 5 hindrances. Because if we didn't have 5 hindrances, we'd automatically be in a jhanic state all the time, basically, pretty much. So it says, I understand that sensual desire, craving, no knowledge of the Four Noble Truths, the desire for ignorance and wrong view all play a part. Which is the most important one or ones to address? Well, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, we have to, not any one of them is the most important to address. Once you start contemplating and understanding one, you're going to start understanding the others too. Because wrong view is ignorance. And all those things are tied up into, ignorance, not knowing. In fact, that's the way the Buddha defined it. What is ignorant? It's not understanding suffering, the cause of suffering, the arising of suffering, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering. And within that, you find all those other things that you mentioned here: wrong view, desire for being, and so on. Is that right? Becoming is the rising of the self. Becoming strengthens the self. It's because it strengthens the desires of the self. All becoming is based on wanting to get something that you want or to get away from something that you don't want. And both of those strengthen the self. But in the case of the Dhamma, now the desire to practice the Dhamma in meditation, you could say it's the desire to meditate could be a kind of a strengthening the ego, but at the same time in the meditation you're weakening the delusions of the ego. So in a way, it's weakening the sense of self. In the long run, the meditation practice, the Eightfold Path, is going to weaken the becoming and therefore weaken the sense of the self. But that only comes with also the other practicing the Eightfold Path. But yeah, becoming is strengthening the karma, but the karma is intimately connected with the sense of self. It's the I that is doing these things. And it's only through the development of insight, and the insight knowledges are, integrating mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, developing the factors of enlightenment, that weaken all of those things. But that usually happens over the course of many, many years or lifetimes. Okay. Okay, friends. So that's all the questions, and those are good questions. And I don't know if I could give you the perfect answers, but because that's only going to come when, through your own, experience. Okay, so friends, let's take a short few minutes break and then come back for the yoga exercise and meditation. Okay, friends, so stand straight. Relax your arms at the sides. Gently close your eyes. Just feel your feet pressing the floor. Feel the height and weight of the body over the feet. Feel the head on top. Just rest your attention on the eyes, that point on the eyes. Try to feel the outline of the standing body. Then begin some deep, slow breathing. It'll take 3 seconds to expand your abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest, holding the air in 2 or 3 seconds. And on the out breath, to feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs. Take a few deep, slow breaths like that, developing this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to coordinate these exercises with the same deep, slow breathing. So on the next in breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back. On the out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of the head. Again, in breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, bend back a little bit. Out breath, touch the top of the head. The third time, hold that upward stretch longer. Feel the sensation. Now release the fingers, the out breath, arms back to the side. Close the eyes. Feel the hands and fingers. Feel the increased pulsation, sensations. Just remember the present moment of standing. Just letting go of your thoughts, keep the mind grounded in the body. With the next in breath, push up on the toes while raising the arms over the head in this way, facing the hands toward each other, stretch. Out breath, come back down. Use the breath to help lift up the body. Out. Once more. Out. Close the eyes, feeling the body, the increased body sensation, maybe the contact, feel all those body sensations, cells bumping into each other, it's also contact, producing feeling. If there's pain, you might have aversion to that feeling, negative pain. Next, we'll do side bending. So, on the in breath, raise both arms up over the head. And keep the fingers and arms straight. In the out breath, bend over your right side. As far as you comfortably can, feel the stretch to the side. Keep the arms parallel to each other. In breath, lift up. And to the right side, out breath. In. Keep alternating sides with the breathing out breath. In. Once more to each side. The out breath, lower both arms. Close the eyes, relax. Feel the increased sensation, especially in your hands and fingers. Feel the clothing touching the skin, it's contact, clothing rubbing against the skin, it's contact producing the sensation, the feeling. You might think about it. Just remember standing. Way to cut off grasping or thinking is to keep the mind focused on the body. Can't feel the body and think at the same time. You can now spread the feet apart about 3 feet. Hands together at the chest. Breathe in, hands over the head. In the out breath, lower the hands to the chest, bend the knees, lower down, try to keep the back upright. In breath, all the way up. Up. The out breath, arms back to the side. And each foot pressing the floor. Don't give the mind time to wander into grasping. The body's always here. Just feel it. Now hold the arms out to the side. We'll do twisting from right to left. Breathe in. On the out breath, twist to the right. Keep the eyes focused on the hand going back. In breath, back to the front. Let the feet turn with the body, then go to the other side. Out breath. In breath. And to the right, out breath. Once more to each side. Lower the arms. Feel the whole body. All of those different little sensations, pulsations, you can notice. One moment of birth and death. Now we're going to do forward and backward bending, keeping the legs apart, the wider the better. The hands touch the front of your legs. Breathe in. The out breath, bend forward. Keep the head up, looking out straight ahead. Let your hands come to the knees. Keep the arms and legs straight. Flatten the spine. In breath, lift up. Move the hands under the buttocks for support. And gently bend backwards. Keep your eyes open. Let the head go back. Carefully lift up on the in-breath. Again, out breath forward. Let the hands come below the knees. So keep the head up. Legs straight. Feel the stretch in the back of the leg. In breath. Again, the back bend. Carefully out breath. In breath. The third time, the out breath, let the hands come down as far as you can towards the feet. And hold that position longer, feeling the stretch in the back of the legs. And come up on an in-breath. And once more, the back bend. Out breath. In breath. And just relax, feel the whole body. Feel that increased, activated life force. All over the body. And now, legs and feet together. And just feel the whole body. Try to align your spine with the back of the head. Just gently close the eyes. Just rest your attention on the eyes. Just feel the eyes in the sockets. The eyelids stretched over the eyeball. And feel your face. Feel different sensations on your face. The nose, the cheeks, the lips. Feel the lips touching together. Just gonna Move our awareness down to the body, developing this awareness of the body. Now feel the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of the shoulder. That contact producing feeling, sensation. And feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulder. Feel the clothing touches the chest. And feel your hands and fingers, where they touch together, where they touch the body. And feel the subtle life force pulsations in the hands and fingers. Now feel the buttocks pressing the seat. Feel that solid contact, sensation from the contact. And let the awareness kind of move down the legs, over the knees, down into the feet. And feel your toes. You feel the subtle tingling sensations in your toes and feet. And now from the bottom of the body, just let the awareness kind of move more quickly back up. And establish the attention once again on the eyes. The eyes are a natural awareness point. You feel the eyes kind of can light up other areas of the body. You can feel the sensation. Try to feel the outline of the sitting body. Then take a few deep breaths like we did during the yoga exercise. Take some deliberate, deep, slow breaths, holding the air in the lungs, 2 or 3 seconds. Feel that pause and the subtle oxygenation. And feel the relaxing contraction of the out breath and the last bit of air going out of the lung. Just try to take a few more deep, slow breaths like that, developing this basic mindfulness. And breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10 again to try to develop a more continuous concentration on the breathing. I'll do the counting for you. Try to follow that in your mind. With the next expanding in breath, mentally count to 1. Hold the air in 1 or 2 seconds. With the contracting out breath, also count to 1. Feel the last bit of air go out. The next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In 3. Out 3. In 4. Out 4. In 5. Out 5. In 6. Out 6. In 7. Out 7. In 8. Out 8. In 9. Out 9. In 10. Out 10. Now discontinue the counting. Let the breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. But continue to feel it. You're concentrating with the air moves through the nostrils, or feeling the expanding and contracting sensations of the abdomen, rib cage, or chest. Just focus on those contact points. Just knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it, the contact of the breath in the nostrils, causing the rib cage to expand and contract. Feel those sensations of the clothing rubbing against the skin of the stomach, rib cage, or chest. That's the contact producing feeling. Try to feel the whole in breathing from beginning to end. The brief pause. And the whole out breath from beginning to end. And the brief pause. Even while breathing in, those contacts are changing. Feelings are changing. If it helps you to stay focused, you can make these brief mental reminders of breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. It's the present moment of this body. Try to notice how each breath is different, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It's always changing. The sensations are changing. Contacts are changing, sensations are changing. If there's any desires or aversions that arise, just notice them. Even while feeling the breathing, other sensations may be arising and vanishing around or through breathing awareness, other contact, other feeling. Some itch or unpleasant feeling arise, notice any craving or aversion. And also be aware of any wandering thoughts, any desires arise in the mind. If those desires turn into grasping, Observe that. Try to notice that process. Feeling gives rise to desire or aversion, may lead to grasping, or any action. If you move the body because of a painful feeling, that's becoming. Just understand that on this body, there's these 5 physical senses, and they're always transmitting contact sensations, which generate desire, aversion, thinking about them. Which might lead to some action. And how that action might strengthen the idea of yourself becoming. If you are satisfied because of accomplishing some action, that's birth, ego feeling satisfied or not satisfied. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Contact sensations come and go. Pleasure or pain come and go. Desires, aversions, thinking comes and goes. Movements or actions come and go. Sense of I, me, or mine comes and goes. This is just a continuous process of dependent origination, repeating itself over and over and over again. That process of contact, feeling, craving, grasping, becoming. Try to observe that as it's occurring moment by moment, breath by breath. What sensations, feelings, thoughts, cravings or aversions arose because of that sound contact? Sabbe sankhara anicchati yada panyaya pasati atanibindati dukkhi esamaggo visuddhiya. Dukkha patta ca nidukkha bhaya patta ca nibbaya soka patta ca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They go through the rounds of birth and death, moment by moment. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity, to freedom. And may the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way, may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. Thus spoke the Buddha. Now to finish this meditation, I invite you to join in chanting the word Sadhu 3 times slowly. We do the chanting on a long out breath, feeling those vibrations in the body and mind. Take a deep breath. And place the hands at the edge of the knees. Take one more deep breath, stretching the head back, putting the hands against the knees to arch the spine. Feel all those contacts, feeling. Lift the head up on an out breath, or in breath. On the out breath, press the chin to the top of the chest, stretch the neck vertebra. Lift the chin up level on an in breath. And relax on the out breath. Put a smile on your face.